I am, yeah, so I'm going to record this, and as everybody knows, we post this to the NEWRA website. So remember, you are being recorded, and to please be respectful when speaking about an issue or to your neighbors or our guests. And let's all give each other enough time to speak. And I do remember how to open everybody's mics. I just don't know how to open everybody's mics and then shut them again. And I see we already have a question. Ellen has a question. All right, so let's get started. People are joining, but I don't want to mess up everybody's evening. So just a couple of quick things. I'm sure everybody on this call particularly knows, don't forget to vote next Tuesday. If you haven't already voted via mail or early voting, please get out and vote. It's an important election. We've got city council people at large to pick and a new mayor. And then in October, we will invite the two finalists for mayor to come to NEWRA in October. I don't know whether or not their schedules will allow it, but we will make the invitation. And also, it's time to renew your membership for 2022. So please go to the website and do that, or you can click on the link that's at the bottom of the emails that we send out. And I will tell you, we try not to send too many emails because I hate for people to unsubscribe. So we try to be very careful about what we send out. So we're going to start off tonight with John Romano, whom I'm sure you all know. He is the liaison to the North End for the Mayor's Office, the City of Boston Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. And John's going to talk about two things. The new group that he is heading up in the North End is, for outdoor dining. And John, I think it might even be public safety. I'm actually on it, and I'm happy to help. And this is about what happens next with outdoor dining. So you all have my email address. You can call me, text me, email me. I want to know what everybody thinks about it. This isn't my decision to make, it's our decision to make about what we do, how we move forward with this. So I'm really curious to hear from everybody on this, and do it privately. And I won't use any names, but like I said to a few people already, not my decision. I represent the people in this neighborhood. I've already heard from a lot of you already. So. And the other item John is going to talk about tonight is the Charlestown Bridge, which I started to allude to at the beginning of this call. It's a long project. We all know it's going on for a long time. And it is a pretty scary place to drive when you are going one way and there is a truck. Today, a vehicle carrying cars on it. I don't know what you call it, but it was, they can't fit in one lane. But anyway. So John, you get to start off the meeting with, that's quite a bit to get to start off with. So remember, everybody, get out and vote next week. And John, you're up.
Well, first of all, I want to say hello, everyone. John Romano from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and it's nice to see that. I do just want to start off with, again, my contact information is John, John, Romano, ROMANO @boston.gov. I'll also put it in the chat as well. Jill, if you don't mind, before we get started on outdoor dining and then the North Washington Street Bridge, I just want to address Ellen's question as well.
Yes,
here
please.
about the fireworks.
Yep.
So I don't have an update beyond the fact that when it happened, I was actually at the City Hall. We could hear it as well. So we had called A1 just to give them inform them of that. And so they had been aware of the issue. I don't have an update from them other than that they had been made aware at the same time that you all probably heard it as well. And I'm sure that they did too. So they, from there, at least had been aware of the issue, and I have not heard anything else from there. Joe, do you care which one I start with, or is there one in particular you'd like me to delve into?
I'd go with the bridge first. That'll probably be shorter, because
Sure.
I think people are going to have questions about the outdoor dining.
Absolutely. So for the North Washington Street Bridge, it is an active construction project. It is looking to be completed over the course of a few years. One thing I will share after this update, and once I'm done talking, if anyone was on earlier, you heard I'm horrible at trying to do two things at once. So a lot of my updates will come in the chat after our conversation here. I'll also post where you can actually get emailed updates for the bridge project itself.
They're really good. They send out a bridge project update. I get it every week. John, when's it going to be done?
Let me look at the project update really quickly for you. I know that they're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, but I believe that it's still over the course of 2 years that the project will be done. And so we still have a little bit more time with this project here. They currently, at least at this point in the project, the piers that are being done, the closest to there's different pier project or different pier work that's being done. And most work is being done during the daytime from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. What we're looking to is that work that has been completed at this point, at least, is that the first pier, the final concrete placement has been put in place, which is a great sign. That means they could start building off from there. Pier 2, the V-arm framework removal has been completely removed. And then also the cofferdam sheet has been removed for plate 3, which means that they're consistently moving closer from the north end side over to the Charlestown side in this project. We do know, and it's been something that we've been in conversations with both Boston Transportation Department, the Boston Public Works Department, as well as Mass DOT, is talking about that walking section as well, just making sure that we can keep it as safe as possible, as sometimes it can get a little slippery when it's wet or it's snowy, and making sure that it's as shored up as possible. We've also been working with the construction team as well as A1 to try to make sure that we can make that intersection as safe as possible. One of the issues that we keep seeing over in that intersection as well is some people just running the red light over there. So we've asked for, us to be able to make sure that our transportation team is keeping that into consideration of when we're trying to work at enforcement. And then also when it comes to the traffic volumes, this is, the project started a little bit before the COVID-19 pandemic hit in and then has continued working through. Now we're starting to see traffic volumes increase. And so one thing that I've asked is that, so for October's meeting, the transportation department, Boston Transportation Department, has offered to actually come to NEWRA to be able to go through a little bit more detail about the bridge project, as well as what the traffic volumes look like in this area, and hear from the concerns from you all as well, so they can make sure that they have some data now, because over August and September, really, we have seen people start the traffic volumes that kick back up in Boston. So they should be able to come and talk a little bit more about what the traffic volumes look like from there, what we can start doing moving forward to manage this area a little bit. But one thing I do want to set expectations on is that it will be an active bridge construction site for at least a little bit, for at least a couple of years now going forward. So we will still have some traffic concerns in this area, but the transportation team is trying to be as responsive as possible to make sure that they're addressing the concerns over in this area.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. And
Let's
then
move
now,
on to the outdoor dining committee.
yeah, so for the North End Outdoor Dining Committee, one thing I want to start off is talking about outdoor dining in the city of Boston as a whole. Previous to the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a permanent outdoor dining program that existed in the city of Boston. That was through the Public Improvement Commission. It was a lengthy process that that only a certain number of businesses had gone through, but there was an existing established permanent program in the city of Boston. I believe that's still currently up on our website. One thing that we had done during the COVID-19 pandemic is, thanks to certain legislation, we were able to be a little bit more flexible in what that program and outdoor dining across not just the city of Boston, but the state of Massachusetts looked like. At a certain time, it was a fantastic COVID-19 measure to be able to help the restaurant industry as well as some other industries. Going forward, this still had been, and what you currently see on our streets here, is a pilot program that was based on flexibility around certain legislature, as well as certain laws in city ordinances that would not see that same flexibility going forward without some legal changes or without significant changes to the zoning code or a few other pieces as well. What this outdoor dining committee is going to look like for the North End specifically is that the permanent program will continue to go forward in the city of Boston. That permanent program is going to see some updates, in the sense that before it was a pretty linear program where a business might have applied and then it would go from one department to the next to the next. That program is now going to be a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more streamlined, not in the sense of that we're losing any of the safety measures that were put in place previous to the COVID-19 pandemic, but more to be able to make sure that all of our departments were on the same page and that businesses would be able to get a little bit more equal access and would also be able to go through the program a little bit easier. For the North End, separate from the city of Boston, this program will not take place in the same shape or scale as what the rest of the city of Boston has gone through, depending upon how this outdoor dining committee actually talks about the program and decides to look at the program. Those recommendations will go back to the mayor from this committee put together. The goal of this committee is that, unlike any other part of the city of Boston, the North End actually sees and has a significant amount of restaurants, as well as this program would have a significant impact on the neighborhood. And throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, this neighborhood is asked consistently to have a voice in what a permanent program would look like. And so this is where the voice of the neighborhood would be able to be heard, as well as the businesses in what this program would look like in scale and scope. So the first meeting that this committee is made up of both residents and then representative, you've heard here from Cheryl as well from NEWRA. We have representation from NUNIC, and then we have some additional residents on there as well. And then we have businesses on there too. The first meeting will be taking place on September 20th, and that meeting will be virtual. And the goal of that first meeting will really to be talking about, in giving the businesses as well as the residents a kind of walkthrough explanation of the legal changes that come from licensing perspective, that come from an ISD perspective, that come from a fire department perspective, as well as what will a permanent program and what going back to that permanent program setup would look like. Again, what you see on our streets here today is still very much based on a temporary pilot program. And so what will end up happening is none of those restrictions or none of the pieces that come from those departments or the legal changes would just be for the North End. That is impacted across the board, not just necessarily in the city of Boston, but we're focusing here. And this committee will really be talking about how this program can become more livable for the residents here, as well as what could be more sustainable in the North End. Now, I know that's kind of a lot to digest, and I know there's probably a significant number of questions on this. I do encourage people, if they would like, to connect with me after so I can make sure to go over some of those more specific questions too, if time doesn't allow.
We can take a couple of quick questions because Representative Michaelitz is on and he's up next. So 1 or 2 quick questions. Does anyone have one? We'll report back. This committee is going to go to both NEWRA and NUNIC with its recommendations. That's correct, John, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everybody's going to have a chance to give feedback. And
Sure.
I just put my email address in the chat, so please feel free to reach out to me. Dave, you have a question? Let me.
Yeah, Cheryl, can I actually, one question, I left out one critical part to that too, was after this committee has met and kind of formulated what that program would look like, you're exactly right. We would come to NEWRA, we would come to a NUNIC meeting, and then there would be a meeting hosted through my office as well, similar to like we had those other outdoor dining meetings. So there would be a community outreach process for the community to hear those recommendations before they go forward.
Sounds good. Dave, go ahead. You're open.
Yeah, Dave Kubiak. Is one of the options for the permanent program to go back to what it was before COVID? Or has City Hall already made a decision that it's going to be different in the North End than it was before the pandemic?
So I would look at the permanent program existed already previously too. So whatever the barriers might have been previous to that outdoor dining setup being there, it would still be established as of this moment. But that's one of the things that we're looking at right now. I think that everyone has at least noticed that this program needs to look, this program needs to have a neighborhood focus in this neighborhood because it impacts it like no other neighborhood.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Aaron, I just opened your mic. Or at least I thought I did.
There we go.
Oh, all right. So our next guest is Representative Aaron Michaelitz, our state rep and chairman of Ways and Means. He's going to give us a legislative update and take some questions.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. And it's good to see everyone, even if it is virtual. Hopefully at some point in time we can go back to the Nazaro Center and do this face-to-face like we always used to. And as much as I enjoyed that. But for now, we will continue to do this the safe and effective way, and I appreciate the continued efforts of both the state and the city to try to keep us safe and to keep us in a good positive place. Vaccinations have certainly been effective here in Massachusetts, although I think we have hit a bit of a snag. Or at least a slowdown in terms of the amount that you're seeing. We're still a little around 2/3 of people have been vaccinated in the state, and that while that is a good number across, when you look at what other states have gone through, it's still certainly not enough. I urge everyone, if you haven't already, to get vaccinated. I got vaccinated April and May. April was my first shot, and May was my second. I did it at underneath the the rec center of St. Leonard's, and I know the health center is continuously doing providing opportunities for people to get vaccinated. So I urge everyone to get vaccinated, because that is the most important number one thing to getting us back to some normalcy. But we are doing a little bit better. Things are progressing in the state, and I think our economy is showing that. We just some of the things I'm working on here in Ways and Means, in particular, is a surplus budget that we have from the amount of revenue that we ended up being about $5 billion over our revenue projections for FY21. And $5 billion is a lot of money, but it ends up getting cut up because of certain mechanisms that we have within the law, and it ends up that we have about a $1.7 billion surplus that we can use and operate. And so right now, the governor just filed a surplus legislation, and we are working through that and trying to see what is the appropriate steps to be taking. We also have the ARPA funds that are still out there. We have about $4.8 billion. We started back up hearings actually today. We had a couple in July. We figured to take August off for break, and then we're going to end up doing about 3 or 4 of them in September before we really start getting into exactly how to spend this money. We have 3 years to spend this money, the $4.8 billion, but I think there is certainly some immediate needs that need to be taking precedent, and I think we are going to focus on that in the coming weeks here as we decide how to allocate those funds. And that's kind of been taking up a lot of the energy over throughout the summer and into the fall. But we have a number of pieces of legislation that are still out there. One thing that actually we're in the midst of is the redistricting process for both the legislative seats and the congressional seats. And we just got the census numbers a couple weeks ago. They were late this year for obvious reasons because of everything being delayed in COVID. And I'm proud to say that as the representative from the 3rd Suffolk District, I had the highest populated precinct or district in the entire state. Most seats are somewhere between 44 and 46,000. I had over 50,000 people in my district. So you are all getting your money's worth out of me in comparison to the amount of people that other members are dealing with. So it's, but in that case, my district will probably have to shrink to some regard to make it, within the population standards. And that's what we're the redistricting committee is working on right now. We are also working hard to try to find some more districts in the state that are minority majority. We were very successful in 2011 in doing that. I think a lot of people praised the process that we went through to get that from the House and Senate side. And I think we are working on doing that again for this upcoming redistricting process. But for myself, that does not necessarily take effect because my district is a white majority district already, and the way the numbers worked, it wouldn't. It's not even on the margins in terms of that. So that's something that we are currently, looking at and working on, and you will see that we actually by law have to have that bill done by the early November. Because by law, you have to have lived in your district for over a year or for a year prior to the previous election. And obviously, I'm up for re-election next year in 2022, as is all of my colleagues in the House and the Senate. So those are the 2 major initiatives. We're also working on some healthcare legislation related to trying to support community hospitals. That is something that is being developed as we speak. And there's a whole host of other issues that are prevalent and, taking up, a lot of our time. So from the different committee standpoint, as John said, and by the way, I want to just give John Romano a shout out for all his hard work, working at City Hall and working for us in very difficult times. As many of you know, he took over in the middle of COVID, or started that job in the middle of COVID, and has provided as much accessibility and as much work as as humanly possible. I've known him since he was a kid, so I'm a little biased, but I think he's done a great job. And, I think that it's a credit to the neighborhood in terms of the work that he has provided for us. And so, as he mentioned, the outdoor seating discussion is certainly on a lot of people's minds, and rightfully so. It has been an interesting experience for many of us. I think last year we were, in the midst of trying to figure out how to best support the restaurants, and outdoor dining, I think, was the easy way to do that, or one of the easiest ways to do that. This year around, I think I think a lot of the residents were very sympathetic last year. I don't think everyone has been as sympathetic this year to the plight of the situation, because, and I've watched it firsthand on limited parking and safety measures and just overall congestion that the outdoor dining has provided us. And I will say this, from the state's perspective, we do have, the city really can't do much without the state's blessing and approval, on the outdoor dining. And we extended the outdoor, from a legislative standpoint, we extended the outdoor dining discussion through March of next year. And the reason why we used March as the defining point of next year is that I think for a lot of us, and including here in the North End, we have to figure out what this is going to look like if we're going to do this long term, if that is part of if that is the discussion. And, I think for us in the North End, we have unique challenges that I think have to be addressed if this is something to move forward. I do get concerned in relation to, I think the rest of the city has had a much more positive experience on outdoor dining than the North End necessarily has from a residential standpoint. And I think that we have, my fear is I don't want us to become, put at a disadvantage from a business standpoint versus the rest of the city. So I'm going to be part of this conversation. The city has we put Patrick from my office on that committee. I've been in touch with many of the people that are going to be on that committee. I'm very interested in how this is going to play out, because I care deeply about it, because I do think we can find some balance here. I think we need to, because I don't think the way the structure is currently existing is good long-term for the residents. But I do think we need to find some way to coexist on this issue. And if we can't come to that compromise, or we can't figure that out, then I think my fallback is to go back to the way it used to be. I hope we can come to some compromise, but that is kind of where my headspace is at the moment. And I'm open to suggestions and conversations. Anybody that has any good ideas on this, because this is a difficult discussion and a difficult issue for all of us. But I think that the more people and the more voices in the room, the better it will be for a final result on this. So, that's a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. I'm trying to think, I could go on and on about different things, but I'd rather take questions and hear what's in people's minds, because I think that's the only way, as I always say, that's the only way I can do my job, is to make sure that I'm listening to you guys and making sure that I'm hearing exactly what you're concerned about. So thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, Cheryl, for all the work you do.
Oh, thank you. Who has a question? Come on. There's got to be lots of questions. Well, while everybody's thinking of their question, I actually have one about the $4.8 billion in federal money that the state of Massachusetts got. Any thoughts on how we're going to spend that? I know that's been kind of volleyed back and forth on the Hill with the governor and the legislature, but that's a lot of money.
It is. It's the most one-time. It's the most one-time piece of revenue we have ever seen in the Commonwealth's history. So it is important that we are strategic about it and careful with how we do it. That's why we're hosting these hearings with different committees, with different discussions. We want from different sectors of our economy, because the truth of the matter is, and I may be a broken record when I say this, I've said this on TV, I've said this, I think, at different Zooms, the amount of money that we got from the federal government, whether it was PPP loans or unemployment assistance or the CARES Act, and now the ARPA funds, they have kept us stable from an economy standpoint in very unstable times. And it has been critical for us, but eventually that money is running out. I mean, the unemployment assistance is, they've cut it off last week. the programs with the PUA and all that. That finally got cut off last week. The CARES Act money is basically run out at this point. The PPP loans have done their work and kept businesses afloat. But now, with the ARPA money, we want to make sure that when we're done with this, that we are still in a stable position, because it has been a volatile circumstance when it comes to the revenue in this state. We have seen projections of up to $6 billion in the hole to now where we're like billions of dollars in the flush. And so it's, but we know that just as quickly as we're in the flush, we could go back into the hole. And so this, and who knows what the potential variants of the coronavirus will mean. And so for us, it's very important that we do this smart, strategic. I think job training is a big component of this. Some folks want us to do pandemic pay for folks that had to work through the pandemic. So the reason why I bring up both of those is because you're looking about how to fix things that had happened, or fix some problems that had taken place, but also look towards the future and build an economy that is strong. And these are all one-time initiatives. They can't be stuff that helps us deal with a regular line item that we have in the budget, because next year we would have to maintain that line item. So these have to be one-time kind of pieces to it. So that's kind of the focus that we're having. We welcome dialogue, welcome discussion on where we can. It is a lot of money, and that's okay. I mean, I think that's what the federal government's there for, to provide services when we're in need.
Is there any way to use some of that money to upgrade the MBTA, do some maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a conversation about capital resources, capital funds, or capital projects being done there. The other thing I would point to is that there's also going to be an infrastructure bill potentially. And I say potentially because
it's coming.
We always wait with bated breath on how Congress is gonna respond. And so if they are able to come to an agreement, some of that infrastructure money will go to the MBTA already. So there's a little bit of a wait and kind of try to figure it out as it goes along here, which is it's a better place to be than where we were a year ago. But there's still a lot of decisions that have to be made that are important ones.
And there's a lot of loose ends, a lot of things that we just don't know what's coming down the pike. So Ellen Hume has a question. Can you give an update on the progress in building a new North End Community Center?
So as much as I can from the city's, because it is a city project, I will be honest with you. I think a lot of things are on hold right now until we go through the mayor's race. And I think whether they're development projects or projects like the Nazaro Center, I think, or the new Nazaro Center, while I think there are still the pipelines that were put in place from the previous administration are still there in terms of building the new facility down potentially on Commercial Street. There is, I think there's still a ways to go, and I don't think anything's going to be solidified until you see potentially new administration, or if the acting mayor was to win, to solidify her administration. So I think until that happens, it's hard to guess exactly. I'm a proponent of, as we've talked many a times, I'm supportive of building a new Nazaro Center or a new community center, as long as the current Nazaro Center is used for only public good. It needs to be a nonprofit space. It cannot go to developers for anything else other than something that the community could use. So if the city wants to build more community space down on Commercial Street, I'm all for it. I've been very blessed in the years that I've served here that we have actually added more community space over the years, whether it be schools or brand new parks, or refurbish the areas. A lot of the credit goes to the administrations of the city in the past on that, whether it was the Menino, Walsh, and now Janey administration. But I think that I'm always for more community space as much as possible, and that would be certainly the case if there was a new potential community center. What we would do with the old one. So I stand by that. And I know Councilor Edwards is here as well, and I know she does as well.
Okay, who has a question? Come on. I haven't had Aaron at a meeting in a long time. You guys have got to have questions. Nobody has a question? I'm looking to see if anybody puts their hand up. Oh, Mary, I'll open you. Hold on, Mary. Yep. Okay. I'm looking for raised hands. in the chat. Okay, go ahead. You're right.
Aaron, it's Mary McGee. I have a question for you. What's the status of the initiatives that came from the city council as far as changes to the zoning process and that type of thing? Is that going anywhere? Is anything happening with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the home rule that was filed by Representative Ryan. Lydia, am I correct with that? Yeah. And so I don't know, I can't give you a definitive on where that is in the committee process. I believe it may still be in the committee of, I would say, municipalities. Is that right? Yeah. So and they did have a hearing, I think, about a month ago. If I'm correct there, maybe a little bit beyond that. I haven't talked to the committee chair on that to know exactly where that is. But, you know, it's something I'm certainly open-minded on. And I've obviously talked to Lydia about this before, you know, as it obviously came from the city, and something that, you know, I mean, I'm you know, one of the reasons why I endorsed Michelle Wu yesterday, as some of you may know, is because I am very open to to starting a new conversation on how the development process should be in the city. You know, whether it is small projects or big project review, because I think representing the downtown neighborhoods as I do, and having been involved in, you know, being the neighborhood council president prior to running, and having been involved in many, you know, in zoning and neighborhood discussions, you know, I've been frustrated at many points in time about exactly the process of whether it is small project or big project review. And I think it's a 21st century, and I think we should get into a 21st century conversation about this. And so I certainly welcome that discussion. I would need to, you know, want to be a little further along in the process in relation to the legislative process of the home rule before I can give you a definitive answer on exactly what I see as a positive or what may need some tweaking or discussion on that. But certainly something I'm open-minded to without a doubt.
Thank
Any
you.
follow up, Mary? Nope.
Well, it just seems like it's languishing, frankly. I mean, I think it's been pending for quite a while. And I think that there's a general sense, certainly in the North End, that there is a pretty urgent need for reform in that area. And this would be a source of that. And the general sense is it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And that's what I've been concerned about.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think it's, you know, there are thousands of bills up here, you know, and they're all priorities to a lot of folks. And so it is you know, there is a process that it has to go through. It is working its way through that process. So I wouldn't call it languishing. I mean, with all due respect, Mary, I think it is just going through that. It is going appropriately through that process. You know, it would eventually come to this committee. So I'd have to, you know, if it came to this as the process goes through, you know, I'd have to certainly have a, you know, a better sense of it at that point in time. But I do think it has legs, and you know, we'll see how it goes through. And it's really a first time discussion in terms of it really, you know, having some type of momentum, you know. And so these things do take a little time up here. Because it's not just, you know, the city of Boston is only 17 reps, you know, in the House. And I think it's only about 3 or 4 in the Senate. So there are 143 other members in this chamber that don't, that, you know, really don't care about Boston. So there's a lot of discussions that have to happen related to that. So, you know, I certainly appreciate that, but I will check in on that, and why don't I get back to you in terms of you know, kind of how I'm viewing where it's going.
Thank you.
Okay, Jen, you have a question. I'm trying to unmute you. Jen Crampton. There you go. You're open.
Hi. Hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jen?
Good. I just wanted to ask about climate change. I know there's obviously been a lot of talk about that lately with all the stuff that's happening nationally and worldwide, but if there's extra money laying around, there's definitely a lot of resiliency stuff that could be done along the waterfront. Obviously, it has to be a whole state waterfront issue, not just like Boston, because the water's going to go somewhere. But there's a lot of stuff, like individual buildings are doing stuff in the north end, for example, but we can't just be islands. That doesn't work, and the whole neighborhood has to be protected. So what are your current thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, so that we, in terms of the hearings that we're having on the ARPA funds, one of the categories is climate resiliency. Related to exactly how would we spend that, and I think we're going to have testimony from folks like Elm and a whole host of the environmental folks, that I deem the experts on this discussion. And certainly, climate resiliency is, first and foremost on a lot of our minds. I mean, we passed one of the most aggressive bills in the country related to the roadmap to 2050. And in trying to get to carbon neutral by then. And I think from one perspective that I'm looking at is I think that private sector is one thing. I think from the public sector, we're going to have to figure out exactly how we not just talk the talk, but we walk the walk on that. And, I think that, but in terms of you were cutting out a little bit, Jen, I think you were talking about the harbor plan.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, what do we do about the harbor? Because we all flood down here.
Yeah, no, and I think that Acting Mayor Janey obviously has started the process of pulling the downtown municipal harbor plan out of the current situation that it's in. But I'd actually challenge, and if whoever becomes mayor, I will challenge them on this, that they should extend that to the north end as well, and that we should have a much more broader discussion related to not just the downtown harbor. Now, the downtown harbor municipal harbor plan is happening only because certain developments wanted to take place. Now, we don't necessarily have that type of, although we did in previous years, but we don't have necessarily that type of thing driving anything at the moment. I think it's fair for us to have a long-term, bigger dialogue and extend that beyond just the Marriott and bring it into the north end and bring it into all the way through all the way to the Charlestown Bridge. And the work that was done with the new park with Popolo and Langone Field, I think is a testament to those concerns. But I think that that's just one piece. And I know that the city has had conversations in both administrations, in the Walsh and Janey administration, have had conversations about certain parcels of land that might be doing. But I think we need to have a bigger, broader discussion on that. I mean, it's real. And if anybody disagrees, if anybody has any fears about that or uncertainty about that, they can just go remember the two bomb cycles that we had in 2018, which in my lifetime, as living here my entire life, I had never seen the right field of Langone Park be the water mark or whatever it may be. This is a bigger, broader conversation from a worldwide standpoint, from a country standpoint, and from a state standpoint. But for us, it's actually, we're on the front lines of it, and it's a neighborhood conversation. And not everyone has that from my colleagues' perspective, not everyone has that kind of front row view of it. And I think that it's something that we will certainly, have to continue to work on. And I think you're going to see further legislation here as we continue to talk about doing that. But in terms of the actual local discussion of it, I think, I'm certainly going to be part of that conversation of challenging whoever the next mayor is to make sure that is not just a downtown waterfront thing, but a north end waterfront thing as well.
Do you think the federal infrastructure bill, the congressional bill that's being debated now, will have any money in it for climate resiliency for Boston?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's hard to predict what the final results are going to be, but I know that there is a huge segment of the Democratic Party that cares about that, in Congress. So I'm certain that'll be part of the conversation. But again, I've been around too long now to realize that I can guess where Congress is going to land on. So I don't try to guess. I just try to go with the flow as it comes.
We understand. Well, we don't have any more. I don't see any more questions. I don't see any more hands actually raised physically. So we're going to let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening, although we see that you are in your office. So hopefully you'll be able to go home soon.
I'll be going home soon. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see everyone.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Councilor Edwards, I am going to open your mic. And our city council, Lydia Edwards, is here this evening, and she's going to give us an update on city initiatives that she's working with. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Microphone's okay?
Yes, you are all fine.
You know, it's the new world we live in, so you just have to make sure. So good to
Good.
see everyone through the Zoom. Some couple updates. I'm going to kind of fire off some things and then open up for questions. Is that fair? Okay. So the good news is
I muted myself, yes.
most of the school buses arrived and took the kids to school today. So that was a good news. Unfortunately, on the evening, I had several folks in East Boston, not in the north end, who waited 2 hours for their kids to get home from school. So the buses, we got one end correct, but the other end, unfortunate. But I will say, other than that, we are back in school, and that's a huge update for a lot of us. We were really concerned about how the schools would be. It looks like they're going to still be masked in school throughout the rest of the school year. And then there's a real commitment to making sure that all of the staff and all of the people working in our schools were vaccinated. And I think there's hopefully going to be a push for some more vaccinations as they're allowed for kids. It's right now, I think there's a lot of people really have pulled their kids from BPS unaware of where they were going to land on schools. And so I bring up this because it's the first day of school, and that literally was what I spent most of the day on the phone dealing with. Moving into other specific neighborhood concerns, the one thing I think I've heard the most about over the summer and into the fall is outdoor dining. I want you to know that there was a task force set up for outdoor dining for the whole city. The acting mayor then set up a second task force just for the north end. And I thought that made sense, honestly, because we are unique in how we are designed in our density and an existing restaurant infrastructure before the pandemic. And so I'm glad that we're having a unique conversation. Sitting on my behalf on that task force is our very own Michael Benetti, who will be attending the regular meetings when I cannot, and specifically dealing with the top concerns, which was not only the lack of parking, the fact that the spaces, the city property was given for free. There have been some people who have a real concern about that. They are also concerned about the length of time that it is from from March to November, April to November. And many people are concerned about the length of time. So shortening the time, shortening the footprint are all part of this conversation that the task force is going to take on. I think it's really important that we learn honestly how, or if we're going to continue outdoor dining, how you maintain a neighborhood. The neighborhood isn't supposed to design around outdoor dining. Outdoor dining is supposed to design around us. And that's what we need to keep focusing and refocusing. The other top issues that we have had is concerning, and this is throughout the district, but one thing that we are working on is ISD response and trash. And that's a big concern because we have found throughout my whole district, it's really honestly irresponsible absentee landlords that allow for the dilapidation of their properties or the mismanagement of trash that results and impacts all of our lives. And so that's really, we're trying to get ISD to be more aggressive in its enforcement of tickets. And I believe we're going to have to introduce some sort of home rule petition or some law to increase what the fines are. Right now, the maximum we can charge is $300 a day, which for some is just considered part of a cost of doing business. It needs to really be a punishment. So we're talking $3,000 to $5,000 a day. It needs to feel something for people to really take it seriously. These are for absentee landlords, people with problem properties that we're finding who are the worst offenders. Moving on to the municipal harbor plan, I know that's more of a state issue. I've come out against it, as you know, and I came out against it in 2019 when the BPDA was considering it. I found that it just didn't consider climate change at all when it first was implemented. It didn't consider the post-pandemic world we're living in. It lacks creativity. And honestly, I think because I represent the most waterfront of any city councilor, the planning for our waterfront is completely about environmental justice. It's about helping not just property owners or people who live on the waterfront, but if you truly want an accessible, equitable waterfront that people can enjoy for generations, that we can be stewards of it, you need to plan with that with equity and justice at the core. And this municipal harbor plan is planned with development at the core. And those two aren't necessarily the same thing. One last couple things, the zoning hearing, we did have a zoning hearing on a couple bills. First, the updates and asking the Janey administration whether they were going to comply with the executive order from the Walsh administration, which required several things, updating electronic notification, that you can find plans online, that you would have LLC transparency. And for those of you who attended the meeting, you were probably as equally disappointed as I was. I ended up having to volunteer to do parts of the executive order for the government. And I will say, and I'll say it again, I ended up giving the long overdue apology to my constituents that was deserving because of the disrespect you have received at the ZBA. And it wasn't my apology necessarily to give, but it was certainly one that you have earned. It is an unnecessary slap in the face, and that you are treated as though you are an annoyance when you go to talk about permanent impacts in your life. And I will say this, I don't know what happened after that, but there was a different tone, at least when I appeared before the ZBA. But I have, and I hope we will be considering new members. They're all up. 11 of the 14 members are up for reappointment. That was a lot of information. I could stop there and let you kind of push me and guide. And
Questions. That was great. You gave us a lot. Who has questions for Councilor Edwards? Let's see some. Mary, I'm opening your mic. Hold on.
Okay.
You're open.
I'm open. Okay, so I have a follow-up question on the ZBA hearing, and I do appreciate your apology to the residents, because nobody on the ZBA has ever seemed inclined to give such an apology. But I just would like to, note that the current chair of the ZBA has been on the ZBA more than 20 years. I mean, her tenure is longer than many Supreme Court justices. And it was never my understanding that this was supposed to be a lifetime appointment. I mean, is there any inclination that there really needs to be a major house cleaning there? Because I just don't see that there really is any chance of redemption within the current group. I think they need to go. They need to be changed.
which is why in the pending home rule petition that I wrote that Chairman Michaelowicz just talked about, I have term limits. That's one of the big reforms that's pending at the State House in the home rule petition that we hope moves along and out of committee. The fact is, I don't believe it should be a lifetime. I think your understanding of zoning and building and how things move changes over 5 years, let alone 20. And the term limits were for 3 terms maximum, which would have been 9 years. That's assuming you get reappointed because it's a 3-year term.
And do you agree with our representative on the status of the home rule bill? Not to put you on the spot, but I mean, it just seems very optimistic about it. And I just haven't gotten the sense that it's moving right along the way it should be.
Well,
it's not that hard.
From what I understand, a lot of bills tend to be in a pregnant pause until there's a leverage moment like the budget or a movement. And so it could very well be just fine. The fact that it had a hearing so soon is a good thing. And from what I can tell, when I was there at the hearing, there was no major pushback or questions about it. So that these are all good indications. I just think, honestly, what the representative said it was true. There's $5 billion to be spent around the state. There's one home rule petition that impacts one zoning board. It's just where people's attentions are right now. It's not on this.
Thank you.
Who else has a question? I'm looking for hands. No more questions.
Can I add in one more update?
Please, yes.
So one thing that we did file and pass and made history, and we'll give credit to the rep for, is the tourism bid. As you may have seen, the rep pushed for a local option for hotels to assess a fee amongst themselves to raise money for tourism and promotion of Boston and promotion of certain neighborhoods. So Cambridge and Boston came together, and I filed the I filed the local option in the city of Boston, and we passed it. And as a result, the hotels will assess this fee to incoming tourists, and they expect to raise about $10 million a year to go to promotion of Boston neighborhoods. And it was important that it was all neighborhoods in Boston and Cambridge. So Dorchester, smaller hotels also get some of this benefit, but was key was making sure that we got beautification money so that every year, as you know, Joanne, what is it? Friends of the Christopher Columbus Park, they raised so much money for the trellis. This money could go to pay for that outright. These are things that the community's been raising money for all the time. This money could go directly to help pay for those things, to pay for more trash receptacles, to pay for more dog trash receptacles, to pay for beautification that we're always raising money for, that we're contributing to. It's to help build out a better, greener infrastructure that could help, direct and move tourism or tourists so that our neighborhoods aren't so negatively impacted by them. And that was one of the reasons why I supported it, because I said I also want a lot of that money to come to the North End.
Sounds good. Any more questions? Well, Counselor, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to see you this evening.
Good to see you all.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks. Our next guest, I see, are you guys here? Victoria, I am going to open your mic. We have our friends from Love Your Block, Victoria Wright and Alicia. I'm looking for you. Victoria, is Alicia here?
I am not sure. I think
I don't
we
see
were.
her. She might be running a little late. I mean, we are running early, which is very unusual. I don't see her by first name or last name, so I'm gonna let you share the screen. They're gonna give us she's gonna give us an update on. Do you want to text her and tell her we're starting early? Take a second.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. If you can give me like a minute
no
to text her, and then I'll do that.
So Victoria and Alicia are going to give us an update on Love Your Block. If you'll remember, they got a grant from the city to do something great for the North End. And I sent an email last week asking folks to contribute via their link. I don't know if anybody did or not, but we will see in a second. Let's see. I'm looking to see if she's here, and I do not see her. Yeah, we don't usually we don't run early, but we are tonight. Do I need to, I gotta open you again. Victoria, you're open.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, take it away.
All right. Well,
I'll watch for her, and I see her, I'll open her mic.
thank you. I will open. She was actually going to share her screen to show the presentation. So give me 1 second to just open up the presentation.
Go ahead. I know, like I said, we are just not used to being early.
No, that's great.
No.
Okay.
Oh, she's here. John said she's here. Why don't I see her?
Oh, okay. She just messaged me to say she's on. So, so.
Is it a different name? Because I don't see. Okay.
Is there a Tremblay on there?
I'm looking. Yes, I do. I see it now. There she goes. All right.
All right. So I could share my
Sorry.
screen.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. We are running early. We're running ahead of schedule by about 25 minutes. So
that's great news.
Yeah.
That is great news. So, Alicia, do you want me to share?
I have it up. Do you have it?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Perfect.
I would give everybody a quick refresher, just because it's been a long time. It's been a long year for all of us.
Yes.
You got a grant from the city to do something nice for the North End. So
yes, so I could start it off and just,
please.
We've met with NEWRA for maybe I think twice. So we're very grateful for just given us some space to work with you. And, I think I also want to thank the City of Boston for this Love Your Block grant that they gave us. And we've talked to many other people along the way, and we are pretty glad of what we're presenting to you today. And I also see the North End Beautification was another group that we spoke with. So, if this is the first time you're hearing about Love Your Block, Alicia, you can go to the next slide. So we got a grant from the City of Boston for a beautification project. And this is essentially our agenda for our discussion. We're going to just review our goals based on that mini grant and site selection, which most of you participated in the survey, and just our strategy. And then we'll dive into the project. Alicia's going to talk a little bit about it, and then next step. So we could take it away. So, the purpose of the grant was just to transform a physical landscape or highlight and, bring community together, or like highlight the culture of a community. And I think that's the part that we focused on, highlighting the culture of a community. And we looked at 3 different sites that some of the members here voted on. And the thought was to create an entry point, a welcome point to the North End, and looking at the neighborhood story, so the culture of the community and the stories that go along with it, and the historical, place that North End is. So if we can go to the next slide, Alicia. Oh, you can skip this one. So our site is essentially crossover, Cross Street and Hanover Street at, the plaza right there, as you see. And just to give a quick, we looked at this site and looking at the infrastructure of what's existing, and just to understand what our parameters were when we want for us to implement this sort of front door to the North End, because at Cross Street and Hanover Street, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, and that is the entry point for most people to the North End. And so we wanted to create and capture a moment that recognizes, okay, I'm entering into a new place. So we looked for opportunities and just study how this area is used. So I will give it on to Alicia, and I don't want to talk too much because she's going to talk more about that site.
So a few months back, we had done a survey. And even before that, we had been talking about QR codes, and in conclusion, we came up with a 2-part project. One is an on-site beautification project, and the second part of it is a temporary interactive, like a virtual story collection. And that's kind of where the QR code will come into play, and we'll explain more about that towards the end as well. But the first part of it is the on-site beautification part of it. There are 4 planters that were on the site that Victoria had just spoke about. And we've been working closely with the beautification committee and using what's existing as far as the planters, how can we connect that with our project and create a place where the stories are coming together using the planters and beautifying the site a little bit more. And then there's also 2 benches there as of right now. We've also connected with the age-friendly bench program within Boston, and we'll be getting more to add to that. Once we've been to the site a few times, just like kind of observing, and every time people are sitting on those benches. So more seating is always welcome. So the site that Victoria was just speaking about, there are 4 planters, one on the corner of Salem Street, which we would be proposing moves more to the corner. It's a little bit buried towards the back. And then there's 3 on the plaza of Cross and Hanover Street that we would propose to move a little bit closer and use those planters as part of our project where we're actually beautifying the space as well. So zooming in a little bit more, you can see the 3 planters are kind of placed a little bit more close together. The 2 existing benches almost frame where the drive aisle would be for the delivery trucks. So we're still maintaining that 20-foot drive aisle. And then the 2 new benches that are 72 inches would go at the end. So we're almost creating this cluster that can be walked through, can be a little bit more interactive, and we can start to place our program within that. And so based on that QR code that we were originally talking about, we would place the QR codes on sides of the planter. So the blue highlights where the QR code would be. And as you can see, the benches almost frame the planters, and it almost creates a path that can be an experience that you can walk through and snap the QR code. That will then bring you to another part of our project. That's the virtual part of it. So each planter would have some flowers added to it, some seasonal plants that would give some color, and then a temporary pin-up site that would host photos, postcards, just things that people can interact and place there that would be temporary. And then the QR code that connects to our virtual aspect of this project will be placed on the sides of the planters that were shown before. And that's kind of what it would look like. And the benches as well, like I said, we've been working with the age-friendly bench program. The potential installation for this would be November. And again, in the spaces that we are looking at, they would be kind of the benches that frame the 3 planters that create that walkthrough experience.
Okay, so I'll talk about the digital experience. So, but before I do, so our grant is $3,500, and so it's not, you know, a lot. It can be used pretty quickly, and you know, I think it's important. It was important for us to build on what was already existing, and so we thought the planters were a great opportunity to use for sharing stories of, you know, like what do you love about the North End? And in that we have the physical, which is the pinup of, you know, photos and memories or stories. And then the QR code would take you to a website that we created, which, you know, anyone can post either a photo with a caption, or just a written story, or just a photo with a story. And it's very easy to use. The interface is very easy to use, and we're just asking everyone or anyone to, you know, share, why do you love the North End? You know, our office is not too far from the North End, and we love the North End, and quite frequently, well, not since COVID, but, you know, go there a lot for lunches or hangouts, and, you know, take visitors there. And so it's just an opportunity of story sharing, not only for residents, but for visitor engagement. Okay, next slide, please. And we did do a test. We printed one of the codes, we printed a QR code and installed it on one of the planters that's behind the blue bench. So you can go out there and test it out yourself. And it's up and running, and so is our website. And but this is essentially our test, but what it may look like. And let's see. Okay, next slide. And so next is the implementation. So you can go to the next slide. Our plan is, you know, pending funding, or, you know, getting our funds from the City of Boston. The plan is to have a work day on Saturday, September 25th, which is 2 weeks from this Saturday. And we invite everyone, you all, to join us. And this is very much, you know, like our North End, and with a rain date on Sunday, if the next day, Sunday, September 26th. And on that day, the planters would have already been relocated. We'll arrange that. And we'll plant the seasonal flowers and paint the planters, and apply the QR code map as you saw, not the one that I just showed, but the red and blue, as Alicia, the rendering showed, the 3-dimensional image showed. And then we will also construct the, the storytelling, the physical storytelling trellis there. And as Alicia mentioned, the benches won't be installed till November. And this site will be it'll be temporary. So we'll continue to gather stories and we'll continue gathering the stories until the end of the year. So January 1st. But, I think it would take, we would love to have a lot of support from everyone here and just the community at large to gather story and just make this an engaging experience for everyone. And that's all we have. We could take questions at this time.
Question already from Mary Beth Sweeney. Are you able to count how many people use the QR code? Are people able to upload photos or share their North End stories through the QR code?
Yes, so the QR code, Alicia, feel free to jump in as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so you guys can you can scan this. This is actually scannable. So if you have your phone with you, we've tried this. You can even do it right now. And just like see the website, and that's where you'll actually, once you get to the website, you'll see it's very easy to submit. I think you can do story, photo, and then photo with a caption. And also, just to be sure everybody knows, they do go through like a vetting process. So we will accept them. Like they won't just go up. We'll read them through, we'll make sure that they're appropriate. And then they will go up once we approve them.
Correct.
Anybody else have a question? A very quiet group tonight. Mary, your mic is open. I don't know if you have a question or not. Wait, question in the chat. Oh, it's the link.
Yeah,
Oh.
so the link, right. So thank you, Paul. So Paul has placed the link in the chat, so you could just click on the link and see the interface. And I think for us, knowing that not everyone might use a QR code, being that the last year, it's something that is more common and more acceptable. I think the pinup story, the physical pinups of stories will be there to counterbalance, those who may not want to use the QR code.
Okay. Well,
thank you, Ellen. It works.
I do not see any other questions. Oh, wait a minute, Tina Busa. Tina, I opened your mic. You should be open. You're live.
I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to bring some attention to this area, which has been neglected for quite a while. And look forward to seeing how this configuration brings a little more interest to the area. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you both. Thanks for coming and working with us all this time.
Yes, thank you for having us. And
Yeah.
Claudette's going to just put our email address if anyone has any further questions too.
Sure.
And we appreciate you guys working with us too, because from the surveys that you guys did, like this is how we got to this point, and your engagement with us has been super helpful, and it's made the project what it is. So we want to thank you guys for also like being part of this and letting us present at these monthly, and we're just hoping that this continues to grow and we get lots of great information on this website.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much for taking an interest in and helping our neighborhood.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else that they want to bring up in this meeting? We are early. I'm happy to open a mic if anyone has anything. I'm just looking to see if anybody has their hand up. I'm looking to see if anyone actually put their hand up physically, but I don't see it. Nope. All right, well, then I guess we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the good weather and get out and vote. See you in October. Our next meeting is October 14th. We will let you know if we have both mayoral candidates. We just won't know. So thanks, everyone. Good night.